what a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, how dare you, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by Paul Hall, Chocolate Sane, 10th Man, Arwin, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome one and all.
Greetings.
What's up, guys?
Morning.
It's good to be back.
It is. So, as we had a few technical issues yesterday, I'm going to go and monitor the live stream while 10th Man takes over with the housekeeping question. So, over to you, 10th Man.
All right. Thank you, Nathan. All right. Number one, any signs of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curve?
Black Swan.
It's negative.
We don't see the geometric horizon.
That's right.
According to Rumpus.
What's that? Did I get Neil?
I said, according to Rumpus, you don't need no geometric horizon.
We do. We don't. Yes. He changes every day. Number
Now
two.
that's about having it.
Okay.
They don't need a geometric horizon, but they do. But it's not visible. But they don't need it though for the Earth to be a globe.
All right. Let's move on. Any evidence of Earth radius, the R value? Arvin.
No, that's not.
No.
That went down the toilet with the Earth curve. They went down the toilet hand in hand. No radius, no curve. No curve, no ball. Rest in peace.
I think you'll find it.
So-
I think you'll find it swirled down the toilet with Coriolis effect. Actually,
I was just going to say that.
Boom, boom.
Just going to say that.
With Coriolis effect, not caused by Coriolis effect.
Wait a minute. I just saw something here. I'm doing Nathan's part. Nathan's doing my part, stealing my puns there. What's going on here?
See, but it gave you the perfect segue to go into axial rotation. Do we have any of that? Oh, wait, that went down the toilet too. But you can ask the question.
That's a good segue there. Any evidence of axial rotation, Earth-based variety? Yeah, go to the washroom.
Earth.
It's right there.
No, there's no motion going on.
All
Of
right.
the Earth.
Season.
No, we got like 4 or 5 different motions going on, and nobody can prove any of them. What's that about?
Does a sickness
only-
motion count in the sea?
Repeat.
Does the sickness motion in the sea count?
hold on. Yeah, talk us through it. Explain. We don't know yet. Maybe you tell us.
I was just wondering.
But that's the motion of the boat, not the Earth.
Man.
Very good point. All right, moving
Well,
on.
I guess-
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Nah.
Scientific evidence of what?
Gravity, the fallback to no matter how you lose your argument, they'll always say gravity the next thing.
Shout out to the
That's
plain
the
truth.
funny thing.
So Travis hasn't been around for a while because he's running his own show now and he's getting more and more popular as days go by. So check out The Plain Truth, Travis. He's doing his own thing right now, and that's why we don't see or hear any scientific evidence of what. That's Travis. But yeah, The Plain Truth is his channel, and he's good to shout him out. He's doing good stuff. So check him out.
Isn't he doing Red Hen Radio these days?
That's his name on Skype, right? I don't know what the whole Red Hen Radio is, but I know that he does videos on his The Plain Truth channel. So that's where you can find him, with the Mona Lisa, currently with a little face mask on it.
All right. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of cosmology, astronomy, or astrophysics?
No,
Seat
not
of the
yet.
pants.
Seat of the pants. Can you explain that, Chocolate? Seat of the pants. Who said that?
A certain theoretical physicist named Michio Kaku, who says
So-
nobody in my field uses the scientific method. It's all seat of the pants, leaps of logic, guesswork. Yay.
Would that seat of the pants cover sitting in front of a computer monitor and doing science?
They call it
As long as you put your iTunes on and check emails while doing science, then it counts.
I wonder how much his colleagues are actually happy about that he said that afterward. I wonder if they were like, dude, did you really have to go that far?
Well, if it's
Doesn't it come in the name? They're called theoretical physicists. Theoretical. That wouldn't be a
That's
scientific theory, right?
Well, exactly.
So-
That's a convolution between the colloquial use of the word theory. I've got a theory, i.e., an idea about something. Well, in scientific vernacular, a theory is based on proven scientific data, i.e. experimental data that's proven cause. That's where you get a scientific theory. So it's very useful to convolute the vernacular when you're talking about the colloquial use of this word theory and the actual scientific definition when they're claiming to be scientists. So you'd assume they're talking about the scientific definition, i.e. empirical cause and effect established, followed by a theory. No, that's not what they're talking about. They're talking colloquially about a little idea they've had that they've got a just so story for.
Hey, Chocolate.
Well, one
I
thing
know-
about him that's great is that he clears that right up. Nobody in my field understands or uses scientific method. Well, thanks. We appreciate that. I like his honesty.
Nobody in our field uses the empirical method of science, is what he should say. Because anything beyond that is, as he puts it, guesswork. Well, yeah, there's guesswork in the scientific method. You guess what the cause is, and then you validate it empirically, or rule it out empirically. So it's a very useful method because it's empirical. But they don't have any of that. Hence, they convolute the terms to make it seem like they've got empirical data when they haven't.
Well, since he's
They
doing
claim
it
it's
from
the
the seat
higher
of the
science.
pants, since he's doing it from the seat of the pants and it's guesswork, that's probably the brand of jeans he's wearing.
Yeah. For them, empirical studies would be going out in the field with their telescope and then watching at the stars in the sky in the field. It's like their version of field work.
Well, speaking of something in the sky, any evidence to the distance of the sun?
Triangulation. You could presuppose it. Maybe.
How about it's over there?
Well, there's clouds now. I can see it.
Well, it's still there just because the
How
clouds are in
about,
the way.
somewhere in the sky? Somewhere over Earth, above in the sky. How about
Does it
that?
have
That would be
diamonds?
too specific.
I think so too. That's a bit too specific, Chocolate. Is it?
That's too specific. All right.
Yeah, I think so. At this stage, we literally know nothing about that thing in the sky. But let's all gang together and worship it and presume we're travelling around it, eh, fundies?
Yep.
All right. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the center of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Preposterous. Ludicrous. No.
What was it? Drop something and it deviates to the side? Who was that?
Well, you know what? If there was
Did
some kind of
somebody say that?
liquid, if there was some kind of liquid core by the outer shell, was supposedly flying in space, then wouldn't it just naturally, just by it being liquid surrounded by a hard shell, somehow start resonating and then eventually just break apart because of the building up resonation within the vacuum and all that? And sorry.
Sounds like an advert for a toffee crisp.
Well,
They want us
that
to
would be
believe we live in a giant Cadbury egg.
Yeah, sorry,
fantastic.
I took that way too serious. But
Well,
it is an
Nathan
issue,
said-
though, you know? It should be an issue.
Well, I'll save
Well,
that
it's
pun for
liquid.
another day, since Arwen won't let me say it.
Yeah, shut up. Stop rumpusing me, 10th man.
He's
No
doing the
problem. I had a
housekeeping.
really good one. I'll just save it for another day. No
You
problem.
realise
No, you go ahead.
I didn't tell Arwen. It's because he does. I've asked him to do the housekeeping so I could monitor the live stream because there were so many sound issues. I just didn't tell you, Arwen. So he's actually running the show right now, just so you know.
All right. Well, stop rumpusing him then, Nathan.
I'm glad you said it with some conviction. Thank you, Arwen. All right. Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon to give you the gas pressure?
Nope.
Ooh.
What if I use 2 containers?
Do
Does
tell.
that count?
I've thought about that actually, Chocolate. You know, in some ways, you know, when you have two things that cancel each other out. Well, maybe this is one of those circumstances where I can't even
That's
say it
what
with a
I was
straight face. I'll stop. I'm just going to start giggling.
Oh, so we got net force 0?
Yeah, the two. Yeah, see, I knew you were
There
the
you
right
go.
person to do this. Yeah,
What?
exactly. Net force 0 between the two containers. The two containers cancel each other out.
But I thought Zanuck yesterday disproved the dome through Gay-Lussac's law.
I think if you consider using a definition for something completely off topic to gas pressure and ignoring all definitions of what creates gas pressure and denying the antecedent, then yeah, you can claim that. But it doesn't really hold much weight.
Ah,
I thought that was
Oakley.
unorthodox.
Speaking of weight,
It was
they're still
unorthodox.
pushing. Speaking of weight, they're still pushing weight. That's what keeps the gas in the container. Late yesterday afternoon, Zanuck and Big Negma
What
were
container?
on there trying to. What's that? Oh, inside a fish tank. Remember the container fish tank?
Yeah.
They said, well, it'll
Hang
stay in the
on.
tank. I know, but go ahead.
No.
Your
They
sound
can't
is
use-
low.
They can't use the fish tank because they're using that to fill propane. So they got to get something else.
I know. Well, that was my argument. Basically, was they said it'll stay in the fish tank. I was like, well, what about after an hour? Oh, it'll still be there. What after about 2 days? It'll still be there. What after about 10 years? Oh, it probably won't be there after 10 years because there'll be other factors probably not keeping it in there.
Other factors, like entropy.
Yeah, I know. But I've been thinking about that because that's the argument. The gas pressure, the atmospheric pressure, which you did that. You did breaking that down yesterday too. But no matter what, the gas will not be contained over time because it does have to follow the increase in entropy. It wants to fill all available microstates. Even then, it will not stay there. Maybe a short amount of time, but of course, it's staying in the containers. They're proof of weight, which QE's broke that down pretty good too. What's weight?
Well, where else would you expect the natural law denier to go? He has to deny natural law.
And they claim we're science deniers.
Well, and I thought something else too. If the laws of Newton were not right, then the ideas of mass and acceleration and all that stuff kind of becomes a new point, doesn't it?
Mic check. Mic check. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Babs. Good to have you.
What up, Babs?
Yeah, I have a question for Arwen. What's going on, Chocolate?
Just
Okay.
hold on. Just ask 10th man.
Hey, Babs.
Okay,
That
I could ask
completes-
10th man too. Doesn't
No, I
matter.
don't mean ask him the question. He's
Um,
just in the middle of housekeeping.
That completes the housekeeping
Oh,
questions.
right.
Go ahead.
No, that completes the housekeeping. I wasn't keeping track of it. I was doing other things. Go ahead, Babs. My bad. I really wish I hadn't said anything. Sorry.
Yeah, so Arwen talks about relative density disequilibrium as being the reason that things fall to the floor. So I was just wondering if the sky is less dense, than the ground, wouldn't things that are dense move to the less dense medium? If that makes sense. If
What?
things that are more dense than the sky are on the ground, wouldn't they want to move towards the less dense medium if it's all based on relative density?
No. How did they go there in the first place? No, then it's not just going to move back the direction. It's not going to change. Unless the medium
Right, but the
changes.
reason
It's
that
all
the
dependent
things
on the medium.
fall to
If
the
the medium
floor is
suddenly going
because
to
they're
be
more. The reason that things fall to the floor is because they're more dense than the medium. But
Yes.
why wouldn't they fall upwards since the sky is less dense?
You've answered your own question in your statement, and you've started with a premise that's faulty. So you said that Arwen's explanation for why things fall down is relative density disequilibrium. Well, no, relative density disequilibrium could easily force things up.
Yeah. Both
Force a
directions.
basketball underwater. That's relative
Why
density
is that?
disequilibrium. Hold on. That's relative density disequilibrium. You force the ball out of equilibrium under the water. Well, that's going to go up when you release it, right? Because it's in disequilibrium to the opposing direction. Now, that's going to go up. Same with a helium balloon in air. You let it go, it goes up. Well, that's because it's less dense than the air, so it goes up. The rock, more dense, goes down. Now, down is relative for the state that you are referring to. Direction is relative. So what's up for one thing might not be up for another, depending on its density. Now, for us, we're in a specific medium. Us, up, is based on what happens in air.
Right. It all depends on the medium. So up means less dense than the medium. Down means denser than the medium. That's pretty much how it works.
Right. Yeah, that does make sense. I was under the impression that it was only like because when we think about things falling to the ground, we normally just tend to think of like solids and liquids. So I was under the impression that it was how solids and liquids interact with the medium, and that's what Arwen was referring to. But what you're saying is that gases are also involved in this. So the less dense gases are going to be higher up, and the more dense things, which are generally like solids and liquids, are going to be on the ground. So it's all just
Not necessarily.
arranged
No.
according to density.
Not necessarily. It's just the density. So you've seen the example of sulfur hexafluoride being capable, although it's a man-made gas, it's still an example that defies what you've stated. So you can float a solid, albeit in a particular, a very efficient way of cupping the air beneath it in terms of what they put on top of it, but a foil boat can be suspended, a solid, on top of a gas because of its density. Well, in other words, the density rules. Now, obviously, there's certain densities that can't be mediums, but on the other hand, I'm probably going to be corrected on that as well. So if I say, well, we can't be in the medium of rock, that pretty much holds true. But we can be in the medium of water or sulfur hexafluoride without too much difficulty. Probably wouldn't survive very long. But the point is you can actually occupy those mediums, and their density is really all that's dictating what's going to happen where. Same principle applies with, I can't remember what the liquid is. It's molten lead or something like that, and you can literally
Mercury.
Mercury, that was it. You can float stuff on it, solids. You can put an anvil, great big massive heavy weight, on top of mercury, and it'll just float there. Well, that's purely down to the density of the medium. In that case, it's mercury.
But think about this though. If I have a baseball in my hand, the baseball is more dense than the surrounding air, but it's also more dense than the air that's like, say, 50 miles up. So why does it choose to go down if it's less dense than the air that's above as well? Why is it prioritizing down if
More
it's all
dense.
just based on density?
It's just it's not prioritizing down. It just is more dense than the medium it's in. So it's going to go in that direction relative to the density of the medium that it's in. Likewise, the reverse is true for something less dense. So why are you saying, well, why doesn't it go to the even more less dense medium? Well, because it's still more dense than all of it. So it's going down relative to its medium.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right,
Babs,
it is more dense
what
than
would take
all
the
of it,
ball
but
up there
why
since the
does it
ball
go
is more
down?
dense than the ball is more dense than all the air, right? So how would the ball get up 50 miles up? What would support it? There's nothing to support it, right? Because the ball is obviously more dense than
Yeah,
all
there's
of the air,
nothing to support
any
it.
air.
I understand what you're saying. There's nothing to support it, but why would it go down if it's all just based on density? Because the air above is less dense as well, so it could go up if it's all just based on density.
Hold
Now
on,
you're
let me answer.
The
disregarding.
density is
You're disregarding my
relative to each
original.
other. Yes, the density is
You're missing out
relative
the
to
one
each
word.
other.
Hold
So
on,
the
I can just
ball is
end
more
this.
dense.
Hold on, Chocolate. You're missing out
It's
the
relatively
you're missing
medium.
out the disequilibrium part. So once you've pushed something out of equilibrium, it will return from whence it came. Now the medium is specific in terms of the direction. So we're going to take a basketball, and if you force it out of equilibrium underwater, it's going to want to go up relative to us and how we describe up. That's what it's going to do if you force it underwater. Likewise, if you take it up in the air and drop it, it's going to go down. It's not going to go out of equilibrium more. You're forcing it out of equilibrium by taking it up in the air, and it always returns to equilibrium. So it depends on where its equilibrium point is. Now, this is aside from fall arrest, which you said, oh, well, there's nothing supporting it. Well, that's describing fall arrest. In other words, if you have something very dense and it's perched on a piece of plywood and it's more dense than it, and over a period of time it cracks the plywood and carries on a descent downwards to when it reaches another point of fall arrest, where there may not be a less dense medium below that particular point. So if it's reached the ground, and we are under the assumption that below that point there is only more dense material, that will be the end. That is its point of fall arrest. That is equilibrium for that particular item. Doesn't matter what it is. It's an anvil falling off a cliff in a Wile E. Coyote cartoon. But the point is that once it's reached that point of equilibrium, notwithstanding fall arrest, once you take it out of equilibrium, which requires energy, it's going to return from whence it came. Now, it might be energy pushing it underwater or taking it up in the air, but the equilibrium point is where it's going to return to once you've put energy in to take it out of equilibrium. Because this basketball's not getting up in the air on its own. You've got to put energy in to do that. Well, why don't things just fly up in the air? Well, because that requires energy.
Right, that does make sense. But the next question is then, why is equilibrium down for solids? Why is it down? And I mean, that question is probably impossible to answer. You could say
it's
that
wrong,
it's gravity,
but
gravity's still...
Hold on. It's because it's malformed. I've just explained that, no, it isn't necessarily down. My basketball example was forced underwater when you took it out of equilibrium in the first instance. Well, that's not down when it's returning to equilibrium. It is very much medium specific. So it's not just down. This whole gravity bullshit is only because we only refer to our relative directions for us. Directions are not relative, are always going to be relative. And in this instance, you can change that if you change the medium.
Right, I get that part 100%. It's all medium based. That's why a basketball is always going to float at the top of a swimming pool, and a bowling ball is going to fall to the bottom because it's more dense than the medium.
Yes.
And
that's it. That's the end of the explanation. There's nothing more to explain. You can go into the causes, but then you're trying to derive the cause of a second order effect of entropy. Now, well, that to me is a futile task. It is what it is. That's why, although they've got gravity, so this has never been encompassed into any natural law, it's just described as gravity. But now we've 100 years surpassed the force of gravity, and we're into bendy conceptual mediums, it's kind of non-relevant. This downward trajectory, why is equilibrium in our medium equilibrium for us? Well, it's medium specific, that's been answered, but beyond that you don't have any references to go to other than the logic of what we've just described. So what do you have if you go looking for references? Well, it's always referring to down, because it's always referring back to our relativistic directions that we have in our medium.
It is logical though, Nathan, because objects and liquids, which we can definitely see and touch, are typically, the things we see and touch, and they always seem to go down, while the air, which is on average pretty invisible, that's the thing generally going up, but we don't see it. So
Oh, what, the lighter stuff? Yeah, that's why.
And to the physical.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, I can see, but it seems so primitive. I mean, this to the Globers, right? What I'm about to say is going to be so arrogant. They're going to be like, oh, well, but this notion of a constant down, not observing relative directions and mediums, to me seems Stone Age. Don't give me crap in the comments about there not being a Stone Age. It seems archaic. Now, that's funny because that's what we get criticised of, right? Old, out of date, outmoded concepts. Well, no, just paying attention to the natural nature of reality and decrying anything that's backed up with nonsense. Well, to me, this whole nonsense of a constant fixed down because of what we see from our medium is just archaic. Assigning gravity to a down, that's out of date by their own standards. 100 years, in excess of 100 years now. It's like 105 years out of date. So, get with the times, man.
Right. Thanks for clearing that up for me. Somebody asked me that question early on, and I couldn't answer it. So,
hold on, Chocolate. Let's just round out again, Babs. Sorry.
No, I was just saying thanks for answering that question for me. Someone asked me that a few days ago, and I just couldn't answer it. So it makes sense that it's all medium dependent. Now it's starting to make a little bit more sense.
Sorry to do this to you, Chocolate. There's now going to be a caveat. So now that you've given me the context of why you've asked, I just thought you were just asking. So someone else has challenged you to. You don't need to. This is an interesting conversation, right? And it's nice to poo-poo the old rhetoric. It's 100 years out of date anyway. But nevertheless, there's no need for you to explain this. Are you somehow involved in a career that is dependent on this particular aspect of life in any way, shape or form? Or does it affect you personally in any way, shape or form? Or do you personally make any claims about this specific topic, Babs?
I do make claims about this specific topic. I do spend a lot of time with Globers, and I do like being able to defend my rhetoric. So that's why I ask what I ask, because it's all for debate. It's all for improving my debate skills, pretty much.
Possibly. What do you claim?
I claim that Earth is flat and gravity doesn't exist.
Well, that's rebutting a claim. So, if you have an extraordinary claim, definitely the onus of proof is on you. Now, by their own rhetoric, and you'll agree you've heard enough of it, they will accept that to our observation Earth is flat. Now, given that is the standard default position, the extraordinary claim is that it's a globe. That's not a claim from you. Same goes for gravity. That's the claim that you're saying, well, I say gravity isn't real. Well, there's no automatic presupposition that we have to accept and suddenly refute. There's no scientific evidence for it. So you're refuting claims. And I will reiterate what I've said. Now, you don't have to accept this, but this is just a fact. By what you've just told me, you're not making any claim. You're refuting an outstanding claim that we have this bullshit force called gravity. Well, that's a refutation of the claim. Now, while we've just discussed what is actually in occurrence, relative density disequilibrium in this case, we don't have to do that. I don't have to do that. In the same way, I don't have to explain what the sky is, and neither do you. You don't have to justify what causes down to be down, as that's your specific question in this regard. You don't have to do that. You're not making a claim. So,
I am making claims when I'm saying the Earth is flat and gravity doesn't exist. Those are claims, and they need to be defended.
I don't see that stating that the Earth is flat is a claim. The Earth is obviously and observably flat, a point that is agreed upon by both sides. Now, further to that, they say you can prove that it's a globe by X, Y, Z. In other words, it's obviously and observably flat to everybody. That's the default position. Now, because there is a standardised religious rhetoric that 95% of the Western world are under, it may feel like stating the obvious and observable about the nature of reality needs to be defended as a claim. It isn't. Now, you don't have to accept this. I am right, though. Sorry.
It'd be like defending water being wet.
Exactly. Who said that?
That was me, Stagger Lee.
Perfect. Exactly. Certain things are the way they are. Further to them, we have an extraordinary claim that the Earth's a sphere. That's an extraordinary claim.
Well, regardless, people are still going to want evidence. they're still going to want to see evidence for the claims that you're making.
Babs, let me pipe in.
But Babs, you can't. Go ahead, Tim. Sorry.
Yeah, let me just pipe in here because you're missing what Nathan is saying. Let's say you and me, Babs, are on the seashore, like I tried to get Highlander yesterday, and we both look out at the horizon, and we both agree, observably, it looks flat. You with me on this?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay, so what's there to debate? We both observably see a flat Earth, but then all of a sudden you look at me and say, but there's a curve. And I say, okay, prove it. You made the claim, now you got to prove it. But because visually you and I both saw a flat horizon, and there's nothing to debate there. We only debate because you make a claim that we live on a ball in this example. So now it's up to you to prove water curves, where's the geometric horizon, the physical. It's up to you now. Now, if you can't do that, then we're back on the seashore looking at a plane that looks flat. And
right, I'm sorry to cut you off. I'm going to just do a couple of quick shout outs. So 10th man, shout out to Al Junkie. He says, Al Junkie is an honest 10th man fan. Hashtag fun intended. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat, Al Junkie. Really appreciate your support. And also, Paralaya Bodyworks. Sorry, I can't pronounce that. Why is down the direction that denser things go? It's more dense than what? The medium? That's medium specific. So more dense than the medium, they'll go down relative to that medium. Less dense than that medium, they'll go up. But like my example with the basketball, that's only capable of being described by us with our relative directions being adhered to when we describe it. So relative to us in air, the ball's going up, but it's not in air. It's in water. So the whole direction, the relative directions will change, for us included, when we get into the same medium. So it's not necessarily the case that we have a definitive up and down, it's relative. So anyway, thank you very much indeed for your question and for the super chat. I hope that this particular show, listen back,
I'm
listen
just
to it
going to
again.
respond.
Go on, Babs. Chocolate's been waiting a while as well, so Chocolate's been interrupted 3 times trying to get one point out. But go ahead, Babs.
Right. I'm just going to respond to 10th man real quick. So when you're standing at the shore and you're looking at the horizon and you're saying that it looks flat, they're going to ask you, why can't you see Tokyo, New York? And they're going to ask you, why does the sun go behind the horizon? And you're going to have to be able to answer these questions. It's not enough to just say that things look that way.
That's a different question.
Hold on. No. Sorry, again, I just got to get this absolutely crystal clear and pegged down for the audience's benefit. I'm grateful for this, Babs, and I'm going to go at you. Sorry, do you make claims about what the sun is, how it behaves, or what the horizon, it's very specific now, is and how it behaves? Do you personally make claims about those things, or are you only responding to a charge that you've been levelled with a burden of proof reversal fallacy because they make claims about what the sun is and they make claims about what the horizon does? Are you actually sure that you're making a claim in this regard also?
I'm responding to burden of proof reversal fallacies, as well as fires of false models, like the map that have been used as flat Earth models. I'm having to
You're breaking up. We're getting about 70% of what you're saying. It's clear enough to understand. I understand. So you're agreeing, you're saying you appreciate that it's a burden of proof reversal fallacy, but they still charge you with it and demand an answer because you're a flat earther and suddenly the arbiter of these things that they make claims about. So burden of proof is all fine. Okay, at least you appreciate it.
Yeah, I do appreciate it. Sorry for the audio issues. And what I was saying is that I also have to defend 5 years of epistemology created by other flat earthers, like the AE map and the circling sun and moon. Those are all things that are constantly brought up.
Why do you do that? I don't defend
having
anybody.
to defend them,
Okay,
even though I don't believe in any of those things.
No, he's right. I'll reiterate that, and then I'm going to go to chocolate after a shout out. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. That's weird defending the fact that maybe it's controlled opposition that's permeated all of this stuff into the people who are just ground level, grassroots people who've realised the nature of their reality, suddenly start punting global, azimuthal, equidistant, North Pole centric projections. And we have to defend that somehow. Now, not here. We point out the burden of proof, reversal fallacy, models of pseudoscience, all of those things that we have a damn good laugh at when they get challenged by our opponents. Yeah, models are pseudoscience. Anyway, right. So shout out to Rakia Life. It says, set my man chocolate free. Oh, and I would like QE to define vacation. Lol. Rakia Life. Also, shout out to PRALAYA Bodyworks again. By the way, thank you for your videos, despite YouTube censorship. Yeah, thank you very much for watching, and really appreciate the super chat. Times are tough, so thank you for all the support. Right, chocolate, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Your point
at this point, you guys pretty much covered what I was going to say. Like, I just wanted to tell Babs, like, going back to that example, if you guys are standing at the seashore, you guys see the same thing, and then somebody makes a claim, and now you have to defend it. Why? When you guys see the same thing, why do you have to defend some story now? Because if he can confirm that, then you could, right? So why would you have to explain it to him when you both observe the same thing? It's like if I'm standing on a sidewalk somewhere, right, and somebody comes along, I don't feel any movement, never measured any movement, nothing. And then somebody comes along and says to me, apes, the ground's moving at 66,000 miles per hour around the sun. And then I'm like, okay, well, do you know that for a fact? No. Do you feel that? No. Did you measure that? No. But then it's a story now that I have to prove to you. That's ridiculous. That's a claim.
You
both
observe the same
a flat and
thing
stationary
because Earth looks the same. You observe the same thing because Earth looks flat locally based on planar surveying. So if you're a microbe on a basketball, it's going to look flat locally. It's only when you look at the when you look at it in entirety that you're going to know.
Just let him make his point. He's making a point that presupposes a ball and begs the question and demands that we justify why it wouldn't do that if we hadn't begged the question. But I want him to actually say it. If we were on a basketball as a fly, so we're assuming that the Earth is a much bigger basketball, right?
Right. The audio issues are killing me right now. If you're a microbe on a basketball, it's going to look flat locally. And that's what planar surveying is. It surveys Earth locally, and it presumes that Earth is flat. But when you do geodetic surveying, you can start to see Earth curvature.
No, you can't. They don't measure it. Hold on. Let's just correct that. Have you watched, I'm going to say you haven't, either Bev Try Thinking or Brian's Logic's presentations recently on geodetic surveying, Babs?
Yes.
So are you aware of how a geodetic surveyor would beg the question of a sphere and then draw a zenith from his presupposed sphere and map out what they then call, based on their presupposition that they've drew a tangent based on, not a tangent, a zenith, based on their global position that they assumed, they will then draw out what they call a tangent, because of their presupposition, plane, because of their use of Euclidean geometry, which applies flat earth principles after their presupposition of a globe. Were you aware of that?
Yeah, I know they presuppose the globe.
But were you aware that once they presupposed it, they're applying Euclidean principles and levels are level, plums are running parallel?
According to them, level is perpendicular to...
I know that, but according to their surveyors, after they beg the question of a sphere and draw their zenith to a point that points, according to their fundy religious belief, to the presupposed centre of a presupposed ball Earth, after that moment, so that they can label what they're going to do in terms of work, they call that point the tangent point, because they've presupposed a sphere. But then they actually measure a plane. So the thing they're going to work on with Euclidean principles and levels level, plums plum, is going to be called a tangent, because of the presupposition, plane. So all of the principles that they tell us about, oh, well, plumb bobs point to the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth. No, they don't. Their own surveyors will not back that nonsense, because that's not what they do. They measure a flat plane after they've begged the question. They're not measuring or utilising tools that do anything other than abide by flat Earth and how it operates. Tangent, plane. We've debunked the tangent. The plane bit is their actual practical measurement of the surface they're standing on.
Yeah, that.
So it's flat, by their own admission. Other than their fundy presupposition of the tangent, they're measuring it flat. And the tools are showing it's flat.
Yeah, the tools are showing it's flat locally, and everything else.
So, back to the original assertion then. If everything's showing it's flat, the tools are flat, the surveyors are building with it flat, the assumption that it's flat, even if you've got a globe belief, you still transpose that into Euclidean geometry so you can measure and build flat. Everything's flat. So it's not an extraordinary claim to say it's flat. But to assert that it's a ball is definitely a positive claim and definitely extraordinary in nature, given that we don't observe that. So it's not you defending or asserting anything to say, as I will now do, the Earth is obviously and observably flat.
That stuff is flat.
Right, that's correct. If you do make a positive claim like the Earth is a globe, then the burden of proof is on you. And so far, we've seen that the evidence for is weak. When you investigate it, it's
Yeah, it's been described by Mark Sargent as a room full of boxes that has got globe written on the door. You walk in and you're like, wow, this is a lot of stuff in here. And then you start going through the boxes and there's nothing but empty packing paper and nothing in each box. That's his description. Or Wakey Wakey, Mark described it as a papier-mâché ball that you look at and go, wow, that looks really solid. You know, it's all together. That model is really good. But then you go up to it and touch it, and your finger goes straight through, and you can see sunlight through the other side where someone else has poked through. And at the moment, you meet their eye as you're looking through this empty model, going, hello, how are you on the other side of this empty model? So it's like a papier-mâché ball that looks solid, but really isn't. It's actually falling apart at the seams. At the moment, it's on fire with a black swan.
Yeah, it's a room full of boxes, and when you look inside each box makes sense. But when you start to put all of the boxes together as a whole, you start to realize that they don't work together as a whole. I pointed this out earlier on this year, and a couple of people picked up on it.
Here. My God.
When you think about every single oh God.
Okay, 10 months is trying to get a word in for about 5-10 minutes.
You seem like you're coming on and getting it, then all of a sudden you revert back. You said each box seems to be what?
That's because you didn't let me finish.
You don't let me finish. Is that serious? You're saying I don't let you finish?
Hold on, he's making a reasonable example. He's saying like gravity. You go into the box go into the room that's got globe written on it. You go to a box that's got gravity in it. You open the box and inside it says gravity is a force that's holding all the gas here. But it doesn't actually say that inside that box. It says it's a conceptual medium known as bending space-time and things like that.
It's actually a jack in the box that pops out and says gravity's not a force, but you can think of it like a force.
Oh, he's saying that's not his example. Go ahead, Babs.
Yeah, that's not what I said. You misunderstood what I said. I don't blame you. It's probably the audio issues right now. But what I was saying is that you have a whole bunch of boxes. When you look inside each box, the boxes make sense. But when you start putting them together as a whole, they don't make any sense. And I pointed this out earlier on this year. Like when you think about all of the globe Earth predictions, and when you start putting them together on like one model, they just don't work. But when you look at them individually,
Well, can I get in here?
sunrise and sunset and moon phases, if you observe them individually, they make sense. But when you put them together, they don't.
Okie dokie. Go ahead, 10th man. Thank you, Babs.
Yeah, I heard that. That's why I commented, because it's just ridiculous what he's saying. Each box makes sense.
How is it ridiculous?
He just said it's a box that's empty with a label written on it saying, say, radius of Earth or gravity. When you open the box, there's nothing in there to prove the title that's on the outside. You said each box makes sense. How do you get away from that?
Oh, the boxes aren't empty. The boxes are not empty.
That's what makes sense, right? Because I get what he's saying. I mean, look, we all grew up with this globe nonsense, right? So
I'm
you look
getting
at the
somewhere.
outside of the box, the box says gravity, right? Everybody thinks that there's some substance behind that, right? Until you open it and you realize it's not a force, but you can think of it like a force. You know,
Okay.
it's
My
that
point-
type of
my-
thing. It's
my
empty.
point, if I get to finish it with Babs, and I'm glad you said that, Chocolate. No, I'm glad what you said, because that proves my point. Each box cannot make sense when you open it, because all you got is a box labeled gravity. When you open it, you're looking for gravity to make sense, but all their arguments doesn't make sense, i.e. the last 20 minutes of Nathan talking about what happens if you put a basketball in the ocean, it's going to go up, and all these different things with helium balloons and et cetera, et cetera. And then just the word gravity itself. What is that? It means weight.
No.
And then there.
Who said that? Nobody said that. Who said the boxes are empty? The boxes are not empty. Nobody said that. The boxes have a ton of information inside them. The boxes are not empty.
I was talking.
This analogy is going over.
Okay, we're a bit too hung up on this analogy. Okay, I said packing paper in the analogy I gave when I'm transposing Mark Sargent's description. He's describing pulling out bits of packing paper. Well, those bits of packing paper to you are like the information in the analogy. So yeah, they're not empty boxes. There's stuff in them. It's just garbage. There should be a product in there, and that product should be gravity. And what you've got is packaging for the gravity, saying it's not a force. You know, you're like, hold on, I thought there was a force of gravity in this box, and there's not. There's just packaging paper.
Right, but let me finish to the end of my statement. So a box is marked gravity. I open it up, it's package paper, little foam balls, whatever. And this is their version of explaining what the title on the box means. And because I am who I am, I've always dug deep. Well, what do you mean by that? Explain that to me. So the minute you pose a question, like prove it, they fall apart. So it's no different than the title outside the box is phony, so is the package paper. So my whole point to Babs is when he said that if you look at any individual box, it makes sense. No, it doesn't. Because if you don't ask a question, then you're sheep, and how can it make sense? You just accepted the rhetoric. But if you ask a question, that individual box will make sense. Is my point.
Right. It makes sense to the average Joe that isn't questioning any of this. It's only when you start looking that it doesn't make sense.
Aha, that's it. Now you put it in the right context where I could not disturb you. If you don't ask questions, you're going to get sold a lemon of a car. Hey, you got it.
Okay, so we're all in agreement.
Exactly.
Mark Sargent's analogy, A-OK.
Yeah, I just felt like we were boxed in.
No, I agree with you 100%.
It's just an analogy. It doesn't matter that much.
That was great. Babs, that was good. I'm glad you put it in context. If you don't ask questions, you're a Shapil. It all makes sense. But if the minute you ask questions, you see that it's not a real answer to anything, just paper stuffing. That's what I was looking for right there.
Exactly.
Alrighty then.
Any Globers in Discord?
Xanax in there.
Oh gosh, this guy with his reverse entropy, natural law denier. Get over here and let's see some more nonsense from you.
Or maybe not. I'm just delighted that the sound actually come through clearly today.
Did you make any adjustments as we were going through housekeeping?
No, there was no need. Because it was only the weekend that I'd gone through all of the changes to add RTX voice. Obviously, going back through that process and doing it all wasn't exactly a massive challenge because I knew what I'd changed and how to change it back. So, although that said, you can easily make mistakes. So, I'm delighted that we're back to having decent audio on the show. Tonight's show, when you're watching live, that goes out on the second channel, Nathan Oakley has got horrific audio. I am apologetic in advance. My attempt to clean up the audio for other participants has failed, but you know, it's back to being good enough.
Sounds great on Discord.
Yeah, I had it pegged, before I added that particular fun bit of garbage that didn't work. I'm sure it's wonderful. Anyway, I had it all pegged, I had it all sorted.
Yeah,
Discord sounds good.
I do apologize for the poor audio. I recently moved into a new house and I'm just getting everything set up. I had some presentations to do, but I just can't.
That's fair enough. It's fine if it's just one guest. People can tolerate that when the entire show's awful. It's a bit less. People are a bit less forgiving. Anyway, it's not the case today, which is all that matters.
Why is it? I remember when was it Unorthodox or no? I think it was Kosho. Kosho came on and gave us that so-called citation from Thought.co. Chocolate, you remember that?
Yeah, Chocolate puts it up with lots of squiggles and underlines and circles around words and stuff. It's really funny.
That one had to do with Coriolis.
Yep.
Right? That was the Coriolis one?
Yes, sir.
And what did it say about Coriolis, even though Kosho, a baller, used it to prove Earth-based Coriolis? What did it say?
It's an illusion.
Okay, so that was his citation,
much.
right? He's the one who gave it to us, right?
Yeah. He gave it. He
Okay.
provided it to us.
And then I guess my point is the ballers do this all the time. Rumpus does. Xanax just recently with his reversible changes to entropy. He doesn't finish reading things and he doesn't give us, talk about cherry picking. So when he was doing that, it's the first time I ever heard of entropy being reversed. So I started looking. And then I brought up from Chem Libertex, it says, it should go without saying, of course, that any process that proceeds in infinitesimal steps would take infinitely long to occur. So thermodynamic reversibility is an idealization that is never achieved in real processes. Now, it's interesting that he likes the title of something that can't be done. So he talks about it. And the longer we go into it, we find out it's no more than a Kosho quote where it reverses. The only thing it reversed was his argument. This is all they
but he
got.
brought it up again yesterday.
Yeah, this is all they got.
My favorite part is that he's been arguing with this nonsense with us for a year now, and all of a sudden he just figured out the second law of thermodynamics is not entropy and it's not a law. So I don't know what crack these guys are smoking, but like this is ridiculous.
Anything
Especially
to save
Xanax.
their ball.
Natural law.
Anything to save their ball.
It's never been a law, ever.
Ha!
Here he goes. There you go.
I knew
Because
that
you
would.
say
I knew that would get him out.
It's not entropy that's reversible. It's the process. See, you guys can't even get it straight what people say. It's not the entropy that reverses, 10th man. It's process. An irreversible process, an irreversible process, or a reversible process. These are real things. They mean
There's just two contradicting things said in quick succession. It is reversible and it isn't reversible. You just literally opened up with a string of doublespeak.
reversible. See, spontaneous reactions are are irreversible.
So your nonsense that you came up with yesterday, where you were telling us about
Exactly.
how it's a reversible process, that was all just nonsense then, and to be ignored.
If you understand it, this is what it means.
Sorry, I understand that you've just told me that it doesn't happen.
It does.
So it doesn't happen.
Oh, it does. Actually, it does. It's part of thermodynamics.
make up your mind.
I am being very clear.
Well, let me ask him a question.
They do have,
Let me ask you a question.
You know when the
hold
professor
on,
opened
Chocolate.
that valve, he
Just
was
one-
speaking about it happening spontaneously, right? He even said the word spontaneously.
right now. Was that
Do
gas
you remember that?
ideal? Was that
Hold on,
Yes, I
Zenik. Go ahead, Paul. Ask your question.
was
Zanik, let me ask you a question, Zanik. Is there any non-made reversible processes, like something that is not made by man in any way, that is a reversible process?
no by man? They actually happened.
So it's only by man's intervention that you can have a reversible process with entropy, right?
There are some processes in nature that can be considered reversible.
Name one.
See, when you say things like that, and then when you're asked to name one, and then you don't, just sounds like you're making shit up, Zanik.
One that's actually made by that's not made by man. That is there's theoretical, just like reversible process and irreversible processes.
Sorry, we're talking about natural law, laws that occur in nature, not your colloquial theory. No.
Well,
We're talking about natural.
Show me.
I still haven't finished talking. We're talking about natural law, not what you make. Why are you demanding stuff through me? While I point out for the third time, whilst being interrupted, that we are talking about laws of nature.
Is entropy a law?
Of nature.
No, it's not.
Sorry, yes, it is. It's a law of nature. Your denial of all the citations from NASA and Ken Lieber text and the entropy site.edu and all of the other citations that make it absolutely plain, all of the MIT lectures that I've watched that make it absolutely plain that this is a law of nature, applicable always. Yeah, your denial of that hasn't padded out at all. You've told us that it's a reversible process, and then 10th man's gone and double-checked your actual citation, and it says that it's just an idea.
He didn't read it.
He did read it. So what, you're just going to tell us, by divining what his actual actions are, what he has and hasn't done? No, he did read it. 10th man read it, and then read out what you left out when you cherry-picked from it, and just left out the bit where it describes it as not actually applying in nature, when we're discussing natural law. You ignored that. You cherry-picked that.
Let me put a correction here. Hang on, Zanik. I found that myself. I didn't get anything from him that I recall. I could be mistaken. It was a few shows back. And I found this about the reversible process. Now, see how he avoided the question of Paul. Paul said, is there any non-man-made reversible process in nature that exists? What did you say to that?
Nothing so far.
What did you say to that, Zanik? And then you said there was some.
Gas expanding in nature.
Why are you so muffled?
Is this better?
Much better.
Okay,
So
sorry
why
about
did
that.
you, when asked to show that there are, because you said there aren't, then you said there are some in nature, then asked what are they, name one. You didn't name one. Please name one before anything else comes out of your mouth. Name one.
Well, movement of air is a reversible process. air going up and down in the atmosphere is a reversible process.
What are you talking about?
Atmo, not atmosphere.
Atmosphere. Does air have...
Wait a minute. Movement of air is natural. What are you saying?
Right, it's natural. Well, if air goes up and then comes down, if you have high pressure changing to low pressure
Oh my God.
on a daily...
He's saying it's
is
reversible because air could move
Oh.
up and down. Wow.
Oh my gosh. Zanuck, have you heard of temperature and heat and all that and high pressure, low pressure? It changes all the time. You're saying that's a reversible process akin to what you are arguing about? Or is that the natural law of air?
And there's a quick shout out to Julio Pabon. It says, weird thing happened to me yesterday. Unorthodox pulled up next to me at a red light, bumping his favourite song from Daft Punk, Around the World. Rumpus was sleeping in the passenger side. Weirdos. And with that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on the Nathan Oakley premiering stream, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you're watching this live on the Nathan Oakley 1980 stream, this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to Julio Pabon and all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. Another massive thank you to today's Discord and G Plus panels for making today's live show possible. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on the premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a day! What a lovely day!